Recon Athlete Podcast is brought to you by Kreitz Market, The Social, and Focus Fit San Marcos. All right, Recon Athlete, episode 82. Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez, Zach Lucero on the line. Shout out to Snupe Daniel. Shout out to James Etheridge. Shout out to Stephanie Ritter. Steph, what's up? Paul and Zach. Paul, how are you doing this morning? Paul? Zach? Are y'all there?
I'm doing good. I could be better.
You could be better?
Yeah, it could be better.
Why?
I could be better, man.
Are you okay?
I don't
What's
know.
wrong, man? Are you down?
No, man. I'm in my feels after listening to that. I know it's trying to bring a little levity, but.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew I'd touch a nerve, and that's what I wanted to do, Paul. That's what I wanted to do. Zach, how are you?
I'm good. I'm great.
You good? Did I touch a nerve with you too? No. Did you hear the song?
Yeah.
Paul, do you know what that's from?
That's Eddie Murphy, man, from Saturday Night Live.
Right. So, and the reason why I wanted to play that song, Paul, is because I knew I would touch a nerve, because last time when we tried to talk about this, you didn't want to talk about any of the politics involved, right?
On Wednesday?
Yeah. Remember we tried to get into something, and then you kind of changed the subject a little bit.
Oh, maybe I did it. Maybe I did it without knowing it, but I didn't intend to. That wasn't my intent.
Okay. All right. Now, that is, I was bringing the levity to the situation, because the situation that we're talking about, and the reason why I'm bringing the situation about George Floyd and the riots that have been going on and everything that's been happening, because that's what's happening in America right now. And I feel like we should talk about it a little bit. And the only reason why I want to say we talk about it is because the sports world has gotten involved. JJ Watt came in, Joe Burrow came in, Carson Wentz came in. A lot of the sports world has come into that. Now, sure, controversial, yes, that was it. It might be too soon. And that is a 70s skit from Saturday Night Live, Eddie Murphy, Tyrone Green, and the reggae, and his reggae band. And Paul, you seem down. Why do you seem down from me playing that?
I'm not. It's not that I'm down. I just think that we should be spreading accountability, awareness, sensibility, not killing people.
Yeah, but I mean, also, like, it was a joke back then. It's a joke, and it's a joke today.
Yeah, man. But with I think personally, this is just my feeling about it.
Good.
Knowing everything that's involved and having the understanding, if you are a new listener coming into this, because that's kind of where I'm thinking about this. I was thinking, if I'm a new listener coming into this, and I understand the climate in today's world and in today's America in 2020, and I hear that, I'm going to be instantly turned off by anything.
You're triggered, right?
By anything that these people have to say.
Okay.
And taking into consideration the entire scope of it, it's, to me, it's just a bad optic right now. It's a bad look, or bad ear, however you want to frame it.
All right.
But yeah, definitely caught off guard. That's understandable. But I mean, I just look at it and I'm like, oh, okay. And that's, if we want to talk about this, I've been looking at this and watching this for the past week, and I've seen the best coaches, the best athletes, and even the newer athletes, the newer stars, what Joe Burrow had to say. And I don't disagree with anything that they have to say. And my biggest thing is that we need to have more accountability from the top individuals in these different areas, from, you know, the top district attorneys, the top police chiefs, the top heads of police associations. Those are the individuals who need to be accountable in this situation, because when individuals have incidents in their past and then they regain employment as a peace officer and then they continue to abuse that power, there's a lack of accountability at the top. And that's kind of my sense of where I've come to land in this situation. Tragic for George Floyd, for Floyd and his family, and a very senseless act and a very despicable and grotesque video. Like, I could only watch it twice, and I didn't want to see it anymore. And it hurts me, man. And I got a little bit choked up the other day, because the only thing that I know that we can do is spread love and spread accountability and sensibility. But I'm not going to be in favor of creating more anarchy to justify, you know, someone's loss of life. Although I understand the energy where that's coming from.
The mob mentality, right?
The riot mentality, you know.
Right. The mob, the riot, the frustration.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's unwarranted. I'm just saying that the energy could be put in a different vehicle to create more accountability and sensibility. But like I said, I can't. If you're a black man or woman living in this world today, I'm not going to blame them for having that reaction.
Right. Exactly so.
You know, you're talking about like athletes speaking out and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope Joe Burrow is good, because like you really don't see that sort of outspokenness, even that he had in college, from that position in the NFL. You really don't. Like, so I think he would be like a great advocate for things. He just has to have the success for that to be like long standing, you know. So I'm definitely rooting for Joe Burrow.
Okay. All right. All right. Fair enough. That's all you got on the situation?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. For me, I guess I will, you know, and Paul, I knew, and Paul, I will say this. I knew you were going to react the way you did. And I knew a lot of people were going to react the way they did. And, you know, I thought about this, and, you know, I was like, I don't know if I should, I wasn't going to, actually, you know, wasn't going to, but I was like, you know what, this is going to be something controversial. This is going to, you know, something that's going to force us to talk about this situation and force us to, because there is a lot of things going on. Okay. And it's happening today. It's 2020. And unfortunately, things are happening. Everything's going on right now. I mean, with COVID-19, and then we have this situation. We have the Ahmaud Arbery situation. We have the Breonna Taylor situation. We got, you know, somebody trying to be a bird watcher in Central Park. I mean, there's all these things, and we can't ignore it anymore. And that's just that's what I wanted to say. And you know, this trying to bring brevity to the situation. I realize, yeah, it might be at a little bit out of it might be in some bad taste for some people, but some people might think it's funny. Some people might understand that where that's coming from. You know, nobody really wants to kill anybody. Okay. I mean, like, that's, if you're a sane individual, if you're somebody that knows, you know, the right from wrong, you have morals and you have ethics, you don't want to go out and, you know, hurt anybody. Okay. That's not what I'm advocating for here. But I do understand the frustration, because I will say this. I myself have gone through this situation. I myself have been pulled over. I've been pulled out of my car by police. All right. I'll just tell you what happened to me. And I'll tell you, I'll tell you why I understand the frustration, because it only happened to me once. I was leaving a friend's house, was probably maybe 500 yards, away from the friend's house, was pulled over by the police. I, turned my flashing lights on, pulled over, was like, oh my gosh, like, what did I do? I'm not sure. Officers come up to my car, open my door, tell me to get out. I'm like, okay. Excuse me? No, let me see your driver's license. No, let me see your auto insurance. No, nothing like that. It was open my door, get out of the car. Okay. So I get out of the car. I'm like, all right, well, look, I don't know what's going on. They say, put your hands behind your back. What? I'm on my way to work, guys. I'm on my way to work. I'm getting a little, I'm kind of having like a little almost anxiety attack right now thinking about this. Okay. Because, put your hands behind your back. Why? You're under arrest. For what? For selling drugs, selling mushrooms. What? They start going through they start immediately, without asking me, without anything, without figuring out who I was. Number one, they didn't ask who I was or my ID was. They didn't ask if they could search my vehicle or me. They violated my rights. They told me I was under arrest. They handcuffed me. They take me back behind the car. They're going through all of my stuff. They finally, after all of this, they finally ask who I am. And I tell them, well, my name is Chris Sanchez. You can reach into my sweater, because it was cold. It was cold morning. You can reach into my, I've got a badge around my neck. You can reach in there and you can pull it out. And they pulled it out. And when they realized that I wasn't the other brown person that they were looking for, you should have seen their face. And the way that they were like, okay, well, they uncuff me. They basically tell me, okay, you know what? You're free to go. We're not going to give you a ticket for not using your blinker. What? Excuse me? All right. So, and that just happened to me one time. And the way it made me feel, guys, and people who are watching this, the way it made me feel was like I had no rights at all. And if I had no social, emotional, skills to comply with the officers and say yes, sir, and no, sir, and, just allow them to violate my civil rights while going through this situation, it could have got bad. It could have got real bad. I could have fought them because they were violating my rights, because they saw me. They basically, what they told me was, oh, well, there was another car that looked like yours that we're looking for. What? And so what I did, guys, and I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent here, because, I'm talking because because I'm relating to this situation, because I'm with you, Paul. When I saw this picture, I didn't even watch the video. When I saw this picture, I teared up too. I'm going to tell you that right now, because I was like, man, that could have been, if I would have been fighting, or, what if that would have been me? Okay. And it's frustrating. It's maddening. And it's something that I only had to deal with one time. And if you have to deal with this on a consistent basis, I understand where that comes from. And I'll just leave it at that. And I will say, it's 2020. Hopefully, things can start to change and into the right direction. But I do understand the frustration, because I've been there. All right. Recon Athlete, episode 82. Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez, Zach Lucero. Shout out to Snupe Daniel over in the green room. Shout out to everybody on the watch party. Sorry, I got onto my pedestal a little bit. And Paul, I apologize for, playing that controversial bit. But let's get into something a little bit more on the bright side this morning. We're going to talk some JT Daniels transferring from Georgia from USC to Georgia. We'll talk about a La Liga, and also we'll talk some football recruiting news. What do y'all want to start with first? Paul, do you want to pick one?
We can start with the recruiting. That sounds good.
All right. Well, Paul, you were down. You were with Mr. Snupe Daniel. Shout out to Snoop over in the green room. You were with Mr. Snupe Daniel yesterday, and on Flex ATX talking a little recruiting news. And let's get onto that one real quick.
Paul Rodriguez at Recon Athlete. Paul, quarantine. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man. How y'all feeling?
Hey, feeling great, Paul. Okay. Austin area recruiting news at Recon Athlete. What you got?
Man, big week. We had a signing this week of one of our senior linebackers from Crockett High School. Jeremiah Moore signed with Howard Payne University. Round Rock QB, just speaking about Round Rock, Seth Ford picking up an offer from Dordt University, which was really cool to see him. Another team, like we started getting into the Lampasas school because they're going to be dropping into the 4A like LBJ, so we're going to be in that same kind of coverage area. Defensive end on the side of the ball, Lampasas defensive end, Owen Seaver getting hooked up by Hendricks College and East Texas Baptist. So good on him. Hendrickson, a couple of defenders out there. So linebacker Daniel A. Keith getting offered by Grandview, and then Hendrickson athlete Jaden Williams picking up two offers, one by Arkansas State, and then today getting offered by Tulane. So roll wave. That was pretty dope to see that. And then speaking of the San Antonio area, Veterans Memorial, that man Simeon Woodard, dude, he's getting another offer, DB at a Veterans Memorial by Montana State this week. So lots of cool stuff going on. And then we'll go back up north to Cedar Park. Luke Williams, offensive line, picking up an offer from New Mexico State. And QB Ryder Hernandez from Cedar Park getting offered by East Texas Baptist University. So cool. Getting back into the big 6A area, Aikens product, Aikens QB, Quincy Welch getting offered by Culver Stockton College. They're just trying to pick up big names in the Austin area for Culver Stockton. So cool to see him. And then that man, with all the funky workouts online and on Twitter, LBJ defensive end, Brendan Jones picking up that offer by the Rainbow Warriors.
Yes.
Hawaii getting that big offer. Cool to see that. And then I saved the best for last, the big highlight of the week. Del Valley running back Tavy Dunlap picking up an offer by Notre Dame, which his compadre out there, the receiver Burton out there picking up that offer as well. But lots of big offers. And then one thing I wanted to note, if y'all don't know this name, you're going to know it soon. Daniel Obina, man. Snoop, we saw that news.
Yes, from Stony Point, going to Georgetown.
Going to Georgetown, I think, was so cool. Jugman. I just thought it was really cool to see how he's going to be getting reps, man, going against Trey Torres and then Baylor commit Connor Heffernan. He's already a top 3 defensive tackle coming in, going to be a sophomore for Obina. So really cool things for him. So we'll see how things fare out for the rest of the 2020 season.
Okay, yeah, that's class of 23 for Obina. A big shout out to Tavy Dunlap, big offer for Notre Dame. Paul, we'll talk more recruiting. We got you on earlier tonight at 8 o'clock again at Recon Athlete. We'll talk to you here on Flex ATX at 8 o'clock. Talk some more ATX recruiting, maybe dig a little deeper, okay? Thank you, Paul.
All right, shout out to Snupe Daniel for getting us on Flex ATX. Make sure you check out Snoop every Friday night, 7 to 9 on 104.9 The Horn. Paul, you do a great job every week on the recruiting news. Anything else that you didn't mention in that segment that you might want to mention to our listeners about the recruiting news here in Austin, Texas, or in San Antonio or RGV?
No, man. Actually, this week was pretty quiet for South Texas, San Antonio to the Rio Grande Valley. But I pretty much named off everything that was kind of happening this week. The bigger schools have kind of fallen off a little bit, but we did talk a little bit about how the recruiting dead period got extended to July 31st, and so I still may think we may get some offers in, but I think they're going to kind of dwindle down a little bit. And then also with those summer workers that are going to be happening not this Monday, but the following Monday on June 8th, when everything kind of gets ramped back up. It's going to be really cool to see, but we need hydration pretty much starting now, so that when workouts kick off, everybody will be, in tune, good to go, and reduce all that cramping going on.
Yeah, I got some water right now because I'm going to try to go for a run a little bit later. Got the coffee running through me. Needed some water as well. Zach Lucetto, how you doing this morning, sir? Any recruiting news out of Vandegrift or anything?
No, not really. I did hear from one of the guys though that the potential non-district games for Vandegrift is going to be Cedar Park and then San Angelo Central.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not too sure the location on those. I know they took the trip to Odessa Permian a few years ago, so it wouldn't surprise me if the San Angelo Central is a home.
Yep.
So that's what I've heard so far.
And that would be this coming year?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
San Angelo Central. Wow, that'd be a good one. I don't know if a lot of people realize how good San Angelo Central is. Paul Rodriguez, they've been pretty good the past few years.
Yeah, man, they're always a big power coming out of West Texas. I mean, I don't think we really get a lot of coverage from, El Paso would probably be the closest one, or maybe Odessa to cover San Angelo, because San Angelo's kind of like stuck in the middle of nowhere in West Texas. It's kind of like North Central Texas. And but man, if I think for Vandegrift, and I think Coach Sanders is kind of really wanting to kind of test those regions out there, just depending if they can kind of go a few rounds deep. I think it would probably be a good litmus test for them. But Cedar Park to kicking off the year, I think they've kicked them off the past 2 years with Cedar Park. If they can kind of get another game like that, it's a great test, and really just to kind of see where Vandegrift is going to be kicking off the season. But man, if they can kind of hone in a couple of more teams, kind of like, it kind of seems like they're following that motto of Lake Travis and Westlake, picking out teams out of Dallas to kind of get warmed up with Westlake starting with South Lake Carroll, and then Lake Travis kicking off with Arlington Martin this coming 2020 season.
Yeah, it seems like that. Is that kind of what the sense you're getting, Zach Lucetto, out of Vandegrift? Is they're trying to take that approach where you get these powerhouses on your non-district schedule to get you ready, not only for district but for those playoff games?
Yeah, I think I really like that they're kind of holding up this Cedar Park rivalry thing to start out the season. I think that's really cool. No matter how they're bouncing around classification wise, that they're keeping this Cedar Park rivalry. And then I think they're using the other non-district games to really kind of establish themselves as a program. I mean, you see the Westlakes and the Lake Travis kind of playing the hot teams, and I think you're seeing Vandegrift play the established program with Odessa Permian, San Angelo Central, some of the schools in Killeen, where you're kind of you're not at the level of a program as Westlake and Lake Travis, so you're trying to play teams that are that level to kind of put you back up there. That's kind of how I see Vandegrift doing it.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of interesting too about these non-district matchups, guys. Is a lot of times, the team that you are at the beginning of the season, or I would say 100% of the time, the team that you are at the beginning of the season isn't the team that you are, after district and when the playoffs start. So you can say that for the opponent as well. I would think. So, is it a lot of times? Do you think it's the names or the programs that these coaches are looking for? Probably the programs, right, Paul?
I would probably most likely say the programs, because usually the programs are going to have the athletes. And Chris, I think you're exactly right. Just look at Cedar Park and Manor. Cedar Park Manor played in the district, and Cedar Park really dominated Manor. And then when they go to the playoffs, I think the quarterfinals, Manor was able to beat them playing in a relatively home and home kind of game. And so it's really going to be a test of which school that they can kind of match up with schedule wise. And then if it's a name that school brings, there's going to be some athletes that come along with it. So I think you're totally 100% right on that end.
All right. Recon Athlete episode 82, Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez. Zach, what did you message us?
That's the stadium that San Angelo Central plays at. It was built in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
So it's another one of those kind of historic like stadiums to play at. So they've already played at Ratliff, and then now they'll get to play at potentially get to play here.
And do you think like maybe Coach Sanders is doing this to, you know, I guess, I mean, Vandergrift is a relatively new program. You know, it's definitely a new school. Doesn't have the history that, you know, San Angelo Central or Odessa Permian has. Do you think maybe he's doing this not only for the, you know, for the competition, obviously, but, you know, just to kind of get your players or get the Vandergrift players, you know, steeped into their own tradition and saying, hey, you guys, this is what we're playing for. We want to, you know, make Vandergrift similar to Permian, similar to Central, similar to Katy, you know, where there's going to be generations behind us. You know, when you kids are, you know, 40, 50 years old, the Vandergrift Viper Stadium or Monroe Stadium is going to be, you know, just a well-known and classic place to play that everybody's going to know statewide. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah,
Zach?
I mean, I could see like with his personality, like that be something that they're trying to do. But for me, it's more like trying to get the Vandergrift name associated with those names.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
type of thing.
Okay.
Whereas like if you're Lake Travis and Westlake, you're already with those names, so you have the liberty of whatever team was hot the year or two before to put them on the schedule, regardless of if they're a storied program or whatever. Like you could play in Allen during their kind of rise type thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can play, you know what I'm saying, like that type of thing. Whereas Vandergrift, you really want to play the games that people are going to look at because they recognize Odessa Permian, they recognize San Angelo Central, and then for Vandergrift to be associated with that recognition, I think is huge for the program.
Paul, what do you think about that?
Yeah, man, that's a great take, Zach. I mean, I when you were kind of delivering it, I was like, man, that sounds exactly right. How, you know, that name association, the brand, that's what he's building at Vandergrift. And, you know, I think they got some dope uniforms just to kick off with. And, you know, if you can put your names up there with the greats and then you have that kind of recognition, man, even more of a storied program you can be building. Coach Sanders is doing a great job, man, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, you know, with Vandergrift, you know, he's building a winning tradition. I mean, I think Vandergrift Vipers are beginning to be known, you know, not only in Central Texas, but outside of Central Texas. And the one way to do it statewide is to, you know, get out there and play Permian, get out there and play San Angelo Central, and, you know, these bigger, more recognizable names, you know, a la Westlake and Lake Travis. They do that kind of already. And I would be, you know, and so like for me, I would like to see other teams in the Central Texas area do that. What I mean, like for y'all, I mean, like for me, like I would see, you know, I would like to see, you know, of course, my guys, you know, Maynard and Maynard New Tech, you know, I like to see them playing some teams. Are there any other teams in Central Texas, Paul or Zach?
I think, Chris,
yeah,
I think you have to like establish your like competitiveness and your like playoff
prowess,
like culture,
mm-hmm.
right, before you start playing these schools, because you want to reach out to these schools and play them as like two really good teams playing each other like in the preseason. You don't want to be, hey, we're San Angelo Central looking for a team. Like, you can come play us and check out our new stadium, but we're probably going to beat you pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I feel like it takes a special program that you kind of are confident in your success year in and year out. And I feel like Vandergrift has kind of gotten to that level. And I feel like Maynard, we've seen that, but it hasn't been as regular.
Yeah, consistent.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Huh.
So you don't know if you're taking your kids from Maynard to play the school from Friday Night Lights, and they're all pumped about it and excited to go on a trip and drive 6 hours or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the first game of the season, you don't know what team you have. You did pretty good last year. You think you're going to be pretty good, and then you get blown out. Like that's going to be rough on the kids, you know?
Yeah, Okay, I see that point. I do see that point. Paul, what do you think about that? Let's use Maynard as our our example here.
Well, I think Maynard is on their way. I think, and I think the right word to describe this is a pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Westlake and Lake Travis have established their pedigree with, being in the playoffs and, playing close to Christmas year in and year out.
Mm-hmm.
And they have an expectation. And I think that's what Drew Sanders and the Vipers have established. And so they now, because they have a pedigree, they can go to teams across the state and say, we're willing to play anybody, anywhere. And I think those coaches in those other schools recognize that. And I think Maynard's on their way as long as, they can, keep consistency with the coaching staff and bring in coaches that the community, respect and the players respect and the players like. And so, and they also have to have the skill set, the talent. And I think the talent is definitely there. And, when that gets coupled together, and you can string along, W's and you start playing big schools late, then the name grows. And so, I think Maynard Tech is going to be a few years out, but I think Maynard Mustangs are on the cusp. Wham Nation could be a very, very big power, with just the right type of community backing. And I think they're on their way. But, I think you're right, Chris. If Maynard can do something correctly, they can be a very big power just with the skill set that they have on their roster.
Yeah, and we'll see what they do. I mean, I think Maynard's first game is LBJ. I think that's the first one. They do Maynard LBJ, which is a big game.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. But I mean, like another school I'd like to maybe kind of mention, that I could see maybe doing this. But I guess they haven't really had like you said, the pedigree. I mean, which would be Bowie. They have the tradition. They definitely have the tradition out there. They've always kind of been, in the shadow of Westlake in South Austin. But I think if Bowie were to do this, maybe it would get them a little bit ready for the Lake Travis and Westlakes of Central Texas, or Westlake and Lake Travis, and then to make a bigger or a better playoff run. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
I like Bowie, but I have one more school that I think is going to be on the cusp, and they just hired a huge legendary coach, and I think that's the San Marcos Rattlers with their community, and with, I think, with their with their amenities at their stadium and how well they're put together, and with all the businesses there, they have plenty of tax revenue to go ahead and supply more more amenities into their school program for athletics. I think with Coach John Walsh being from that Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think he's going to bring in or start reaching out to those coaches he used to play and say, hey, I need to get my guys ready. And this guy is known from, taking a team that was, a doormat and turning them into, potentially a perennial playoff team and then start competing for state titles in a very short turnaround. And something he did say in one of the interviews, and I think this was with Craig Way on Flex Radio on the Horn, was, if the community, this is John Walsh saying, if the community can trust us faster, we'll have faster results. Mm-hmm. If the trust is slow, we're going to have slow results. And so I think, he knows how to win, and with the type of, team he can put together and the stadium that they have, I can see San Marcos being a very quiet sleeping giant about to explode.
All right. Fair enough. Zach, any other school you'd like to see around here that might go out there and get some good non-district games?
I think your point about Bowie. I mean, when I think about Bowie, I think about when I was a kid and they're playing on TV, on nationally televised games. Like, mm-hmm. I remember Bowie being at that level, and I think it's hard. I think it's hard for a program on the rise like Maynard, and I mm-hmm. think it's hard for an established program that kind of has kind of fallen back down to try to get back up there, because if you try to use your name to schedule yourself these big games, and then you lose or lose embarrassingly, then I think that's a big detriment to the development, to the redevelopment of the program.
Yeah.
And the talent, like the product you're putting on the field. So I feel like it's like once you have that name, you don't want to use it lightly. And
Right.
I think what we've seen the most out of all the teams that we've talked about is the consistency out of Vandergrift. And I think the consistency hasn't been there for any of these teams that we've talked about since then. And I think that's what you're looking for when you're an athletic director trying to schedule these games is you really want to have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen when a year from then when they actually play.
Right. And a lot of times, a lot of times, these non-district games are made, at the Coaches Association convention in February, maybe even, before that, when they do every 2 years when they do the district realignment, the coaches will get together and, some of them, in the same area will get together and make these non-district games. I mean, and it can become difficult. I know a few years ago when I first started in Manor, I was the athletic director's assistant, administrative assistant, or as some people would say, secretary. I worked for Sad Jackson, and I remember between, when was it? I guess it was 14. Yeah, between the 14-15 and 15-16 season, Coach Jackson, he had a hard time finding non-district opponents. Nobody wanted to play Manor. I think he even, I want to say, and I don't want to call anybody out, but I'm going to, just because he's great. I want to say we even had a conversation with Coach Wood over at Westwood, and Coach Wood was like, he's like, I don't know if I want to play you guys, So I do see, like, Zach, when you're talking about, these coaches not putting their players out there, in situations where they know that they, might not do well, and it's going to affect the psyche of the kids and the confidence of the kids moving forward in their season. I can totally see, the coaches kind of shying away from games like that, because, they might not have the talent year in and year out at, certain schools as they would have at Vandegrift. So I totally see that. All right. Recon Athlete episode 82, Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez, Zach Lucetto on the line. Shout out to everybody on our watch party. Shout out to, let's see who's on here. Devon Odoms and Josh Allen, like the quarterback, Josh Allen. Julie Studdard Coleman. What's up, Julie? And I want to shout out to Snupe Daniel as well. All right. La Liga is coming back June 11th. If you don't know what La Liga is, Paul Rodriguez, will you tell everybody what La Liga is?
La Liga is the Spanish league for professional soccer in Spain. And the biggest thing that just stuck out was everybody keeps hyping Lionel Messi. And I was watching one of the sports radio shows, and they were talking about, who would you pick, as your top player in the world? Is it going to be Messi, or is it going to be Ronaldo? And, that's kind of one of the questions I wanted to throw to y'all. Chris, I know you can pretty much answer that question. I'm not sure if Zach can. So I guess we'll start with Chris. Who are you picking, Ronaldo? If you're starting a team, you picking Messi or you picking Ronaldo?
I mean, honestly, neither, because I think they're both kind of coming down on their bottom, on the other side of their careers. But if I had to pick one of the two, I'd probably go Messi. Just because I feel like he can facilitate more. He's a guy that can not only make plays with the feet, but he can set people up. He can get the ball. He's just more maneuverable with the ball at his feet. Not to say Ronaldo isn't, but Ronaldo's more of a pure scorer. Not, I think they're similar, but I just feel like, from what I've seen personally, I like the ball at Messi's feet. Because it's almost like he's dribbling with his hands. The ball just doesn't move. So I would go with Messi. Zach Lucetto, who would you go with?
Well, when I play FIFA,
there we go.
I like to use I use Real Madrid a lot.
Okay.
And I would just put my defense on park the bus. So basically, like, everybody stay back on defense, and I would just be Ronaldo, and I would just try to skill everybody and score. So, and I always did that with Ronaldo and not Messi. So I would say Ronaldo.
You would take Ronaldo based on FIFA.
Based on FIFA, yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I mean,
are you good at FIFA, Chris?
Man, I used to be, man. I used to be good at FIFA. I bet you if I practiced a little bit, I think I could probably pick it back up.
Does Snoop have FIFA?
No, we do not have FIFA. Snoop, we don't have FIFA, do we? Nah, no FIFA.
You could probably buy the last one for pretty cheap. You probably could find it somewhere.
But we don't have a what's it called? We don't have Xbox like you, so we wouldn't be able to play each other, right?
Yeah, but I go over there twice a week.
Do you? Man, you need to stop coming over here, man.
Starting this month.
Bringing us the Rona. All right, Paul, who would you take?
I'm probably gonna go with Ronaldo too. I like to bet on the side of winners, and the only reason I say that is because I think Ronaldo's done more for his team and his country as a member of the national team than Messi's done. And Messi just kind of fades when he comes to the World Cup and also the tournaments for the national team. He just kind of doesn't show up, and that's always been a knock on him. So I'm gonna roll with Ronaldo and the Spain and Portugal tie.
Yeah, okay.
The Ibiza Peninsula.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm a big fan. Well, I was a big fan of Eden Hazard. He's with Real Madrid now, but he was a Chelsea guy. Luis Suarez is a big name. You can talk about Pogba from Man U. Who else? Harry Kane from Tottenham. I don't know.
Did you say Mbappe?
Mbappe, that's a good one. Mbappe.
Yeah, Bale still play?
Who?
Bale,
Gareth Bale. Yeah, he's with Real Madrid. I also like let's see, Harry Kane, Tottenham. Did I mention that one?
Harry Kane.
Not Mary Jane. Harry Kane. Harry Kane with Tottenham. Let's see, Luka Modric, Real Madrid guy. Let's see, who else?
Are you reading off a roster?
No, I'm looking at these names. I'm like, man, because there's so many. There's so many. 'Cause there's a bunch of guys in front of me here, but I'm like picking only the biggest, the ones that I would start a team with.
Word.
And definitely Eden Hazard. Harry Kane as well. I don't know. Zach, do you recognize
Harry Kane?
Yeah, Harry Kane. Fool, you don't like Harry Kane?
He's making a joke.
What?
He's making a joke.
Oh, okay. All right, Recon Athlete, episode 82. Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez, Zach Lucetto. Shout out to Snupe Daniel over in the green room. He also is on the watch party. He does mention there's MMA tonight. Who's fighting tonight? Oh, let me look that
Woodley and Robinson.
Probably Harry Kane.
All right.
Did Snoop bring up MMA just because he's going to make a wager?
Probably. I did win $8 on my NASCAR the other day on DraftKings, and our DraftKings stock has been going up. Snoop Daniel's like he's I don't know. It's almost time for him to sell, I think, but I think he's holding on to it. He's got like a 38% return. So,
nice.
Yeah. Zach, you gonna get in on some? You gotta get, man. Zach, I know you got like $30,000 under your bed. You need to put some of that in the stock market. No.
No. The only market I use is the Xbox market to buy new games.
All right, that's what's up.
Then why don't you buy some Microsoft stock then?
He needs to buy some Fang. Right?
Fang? What?
Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix. Was it Google?
Yes, Google's the last one.
Yeah. Zach's rich, dude. He can get it. He could get in on some of that stuff.
Put in 10K, diversify.
I know. So but the DraftKings thing, I'll probably get on the MMA tonight. But the DraftKings thing, I did win on NASCAR the other day because me and Snoop have been, obviously there's nothing else on right now, so they've been playing NASCAR.
You can buy FIFA 20 for $25 at Best Buy.
Are you telling me you went, Zach? You're so rich. Why don't you go buy it for me and bring it over to us next time you come over?
That's right. That's right.
You told me not to go over there.
Man, you whatever, dude. You know,
You just told me not to go over there 3 minutes ago.
bro, you can come over whenever you want, dude. You can come over.
There's one thing. There's one thing that's going to be true. Zach's going to be there. He's just not going to be there on time.
Zach, if you bring over,
we got video games involved. I might be there early.
hey, if you bring over FIFA 20, man, I'll play you in FIFA 20. Bring it over. Bring it over, man. It's only $25, really? Is it?
Yeah, it's the Best Buy. It's right here.
Is a new one coming out soon? Is that why?
Probably.
Okay.
But the new one's going to be like $60. You don't even know if you're good at FIFA anymore.
That is true. That is true. Oh, and I was corrected. I'm sorry. I was corrected on the watch party. Actually, 39% return on DraftKings stock for Mr. Snupe Daniel. Not 38. We get that right. MMA tonight. Who'd you say was fighting, Paul?
I think it's Woodley and Robinson.
Let's see. UFC on ESPN 9. So they're
Woodley
starting.
Robinson?
What, Zach?
Is that one person or two people? Woodley Robinson?
Oh no, it's Tyron Woodley and Gilbert Burns.
Gilbert Burns. Okay.
Yeah. So yep.
It sounds like a Simpsons character or something.
Mr. Burns, yeah. The co-feature is going to be Blagoy Ivanov and Augusto Sakai, heavyweight bout. There's some other ones. I think it starts maybe at UFC and ESPN nights with the same venue. Oh, so it's in Vegas this time. That's right. So they're not in the last few UFC's matches have been in Jacksonville, but this time it's in Vegas. Did y'all know that?
Yeah, I think they're, and I want to say, but I could be wrong, but I want to say they're going to start having limited capacity.
Oh, really?
They're going to start they're supposed to be letting some people in. I don't think it's this tournament or this fight card, but the next one I think they will be.
Yeah. So, and then the rest of the fights on the main card, Spike Carlisle versus Billy Quarantillo, Roosevelt Roberts versus Brock Weaver, and Hannah Cyphers versus Mackenzie Dern. That's the main card that starts at 8 o'clock Central Time, and then the preliminary card starts at 5. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 fights on the preliminary card, and 5 cards, 5 on the main card.
So is this ESPN only, or is this like ESPN Plus only?
So preliminary card, well, see, it says ESPN/ESPN Plus. So I'm gonna say it's on both.
Both, yeah, probably.
Yeah, because it's called UFC on ESPN 9. So I guess they're starting to, let's see. Yeah, they're starting to number those. I see Snoop says he's got Burns as an underdog.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know anything about these guys. I got to get into MMA, guys. I don't know anything.
I don't think you want to, but
I mean, I do. You know, I just
do you, Chris?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like it in my voice.
Nope.
Does it?
Doesn't sound like it. I feel like
there's just so many guys that are, you know, I lose track, you know.
I follow that. I can feel that.
You know, I mean, but you can say
there's a lot of people.
You can say the same thing about boxing, and the thing about I don't want to get into this. Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's my problem. Here's my problem with MMA. And, you know, sorry, everybody that's MMA, and, you know, I've got told nothing but respect to anybody that gets into a fight game. Nothing but respect. But, like, I feel like no matter what type of fighting you do, whether it's wrestling, karate, boxing, you know, judo, whatever, you can get into MMA, right? You can start it. You can be an NFL player, and you can train for a couple years, and as long as you're an elite athlete, you can go and be an MMA fighter. You can't do that in boxing, right?
We'll leave it in the comments.
Am I right? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, you would not be able. I mean, like, not everybody can just roll in there and you know, because even though Zach, you know, I know you don't like us saying sweet science. That's what it is. And you have to train for a long time. There's a lot that goes on in a boxing ring. And I just feel like, you know, not that I don't have respect for MMA fighters. I totally do. Like I said, and I love watching MMA. I like watching UFC. It's fun. I don't know. I just think I don't know. What am I trying to say here, Paul?
I don't know. They're your words.
Zach,
I'm letting you dig the hole.
I know, Zach, help me out here. What am I trying to say?
Oh, I hardly ever know what you're trying to say.
I guess I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is all I'm saying is it's easier to become an MMA fighter and to get into UFC than it is to be a professional boxer. That's all I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Relatively speaking, right?
Right. Relatively speaking, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
I can understand that idea, because when you say relatively, that means not everybody can go be an MMA fighter, because not everybody can go get punched in the face.
No.
And same thing with boxing. Not everybody can go be a boxer. But I understand there's different disciplines that you have to hone those skills.
Yeah.
And I think with MMA, there's, like, in my opinion, if you're a great elite wrestler, you can be taught how to be a great striker, like through boxing skills and kicking skills. You can be taught how to be a great fighter, but
hold on, Paul. You can be taught to be a good striker. Let's not say great.
No, you can be taught how to be.
Striker. Okay, striker. Okay, maybe
striker.
Maybe not boxer.
I didn't say puncher.
Boxer.
I didn't say boxer. I said striker.
Okay, all right.
And that's where I think that's where the relativity comes into. Is like, just because you're a great striker doesn't mean you throw great punches.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're a great striker, that just doesn't mean, like, you throw disciplined kicks. It just means that when your body part connects with the face or the body of another person, they don't want to fight you anymore. And I think with boxing, you have to put together rounds and rounds and rounds of punches to make your opponent either quit or you get them tired enough to where they make a mistake and you can knock them out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the two differences kind of lie. And I am not an expert by any means in any of those things. Those are just my observations.
Zach, any opinion about about this conversation?
No, I think y'all are fun to listen
to. So here's the thing. And I'm just thinking about this right now. For MMA, and I think, the marketing that Dana White's done and the way he's been able to go, and make UFC what it is remarkable. I mean, he's been able to make, UFC into MMA and vice versa. Like when you think of mixed martial arts fighting, you think of UFC. You even call it UFC. It's kind of like what is it, like Kleenex, right? Like, hey, I need a Kleenex. Well, you need a tissue.
Yeah, it's become a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's not. They're not really called Kleenex is a brand. It's a tissue. It's like Q-tip. Well, you need a cotton swab. But you think of Q-tip. I mean, you think of MMA, you think of UFC, and that's the remarkable thing that Dana White's done. With UFC is he's kind of married the two. And when people think of MMA, they don't really think of anything else. They don't think of, what are some of the other leagues?
Bellator.
Yeah, Bellator. There used to be Pride.
Pride, yeah. There's a couple other ones.
There's a couple other ones. Yeah, there's a couple other ones out there, but you don't really think about that. So he's done a great job with that. But I think for me, I think what UFC has that boxing doesn't have is that relational ability with the average fan. Like the average fan, can emulate what they're doing in the octagon. They can try to learn how to do this. You can try to learn how to go in and be a wrestler and do all these things and put these holds on people and all that other stuff. And there's just a little bit more discipline. I'm gonna dig my hole a little bit deeper, Paul. There's a little bit more there's a little bit more discipline involved in boxing than in mixed martial arts. That's all I'm saying. Although mixed martial arts, I'm not saying it's great. It's awesome. I love it. I'm just saying, most of the guys, professional top boxers, champions in the world have been doing it since they were at least a teenager. They didn't just put boxing gloves on when they were, 25 years old or 30 years old.
Damn.
Just saying, bro. I mean, is that true?
Damn.
Is that true? Am I lying?
I don't know.
I mean, am I lying?
I don't know.
I mean, you see, was it Greg Hardy? We saw him fight UFC. I mean, he's playing in the NFL until he was 30 years old, and then he just decides to start fighting.
Well, hold on. You're talking about you just said the elite, the top boxers. Greg Hardy's not a top MMA guy. He just got into it. If you talk about top MMA guys like Gaethje, the guy who just beat Tony Ferguson a couple of weeks ago, or even if you talk about Tyron Woodley, who's fighting tonight, those guys are all American wrestlers. Right. And that's why I was saying if you're an elite wrestler, you can be taught how to be a great striker, and that's what both of those guys did. And so they weren't wrestling since college; they were wrestling in high school, like a teenager. And I think if you say if in order for you to be an elite athlete, you have to put in 20 years to that discipline or to that type of training, then yeah, I think that's a valid point. But I wouldn't compare top boxers to Greg Hardy. I'm just going to say that.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, then let's say, okay. All right, fine. But do you think Greg Hardy, do you think he could go in, he could have just, stopped playing football and then, all of a sudden been, fighting heavyweight fighters in boxing?
Well, I'm glad he's starting to fight men and start fighting, his girlfriend in the house. But do I think Greg Hardy is going to go and be an elite MMA fighter? No. I think he'll be above average, and I think that's kind of where he's at. I think he's below average now, and because he's a name and he's marketable and he's affiliated with the Dallas Cowboys previously, then he gets a little bit of leeway by Dana White in the UFC to get on a card. And I'm sure he's, a great person to work out and train. I'm sure he's willing to do that. But when he's going to go fight elite heavyweight MMA guys, I think he gets embarrassed. And I think if he has a career more than 5 years from now, then I'll eat my words. I'll eat crow, and I've done it in the past, and I'm willing to do it again. But I just don't think that Greg Hardy is going to be a top flight kind of MMA guy, and that's just the example that you brought up. So we're using him. All
right, fair enough. But he's in UFC. I mean, he's a UFC fighter.
Yes.
And he's been doing it for how long has he been doing it? He's been training for 3 years.
Yeah, right? 3 years maybe. Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you think if he tried to go into the boxing gym for 3 years, he could have came out and, fought against even, I don't know, Chris Arreola?
No.
Or do you think Chris Arreola would knock his ass out?
Chris Arreola will knock him out.
Right.
But I know Chris Arreola, and I know who he is. And I'm just
saying, I mean, but he's a mid-tier heavyweight. And he's a guy that's like on the backside of his career, and he's pretty much retired. He's been fighting forever.
Yeah, and those are the kind of guys, like those are the comparable competition that Tyron Woodley's fighting. And so I guess your point, it is valid. It makes sense. And so there's no way Greg Hardy could go in 3 years and go fight a above average later in his career heavyweight. World heavyweight. It couldn't happen
in boxing.
So in boxing. Correct. It just didn't happen.
Okay. All right. Recon Athlete episode 82. Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez, Zach Luceto. Shout out to Snupe Daniel. Main card tonight on ESPN. It's going to feature Tyrone Woodley versus Gilbert Burns as the main event, and the co-main event or co-feature is Blagoy Ivanov versus Augusto Sakai. All right, gentlemen. Let's see. JT Daniels transfers from USC to Georgia. Paul, you put this on the stuff to talk about on our talking points. What did you want to say about Mr. Daniels going to Georgia?
Well, I don't think there's anything much to say because we've kind of eaten that whole hour. I guess I just throw stuff up there just to give a guide for the talking points. But I think JT Daniels leaving. What?
I was just gonna say we don't have a time limit. However long we're gonna go.
I got to go. I got to use a bathroom break because I'm an old man. I'm just kidding. But no, I think JT Daniels transferring from USC, he's going to have to apply, and the word is that he's going to receive a waiver so that he can play. But Georgia just had another transfer that came in from Wake Forest, Jamie Newman, at quarterback. So there may be a little bit of a competition there, but I think JT Daniels would definitely take that over. And the reason I thought this was a big deal was because JT Daniels, I think, goes from USC to Georgia and becomes the best quarterback prospect in the SEC, because prior to that, I think the best quarterback prospect was Kellen Mond, respectively saying. I don't think he's a great prospect, but I think the SEC East gets a little bit better with Georgia having JT Daniels if he does win the quarterback position for QB1. But man, SEC football, to get a quarterback like that, I think is a really good thing for the brand and for them. So hopefully everybody can stay safe and be healthy so that we can have a football season. I know we always keep saying we hope. The outlook is good, but you just never know these days.
Zach, any take on that?
I think.
Go ahead.
I think. First, to connect it to Texas a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main reasons that what was his name?
JT Daniels?
No, Paul. What was that receiver's name from California that committed to USC and then left USC and came to Texas?
McCoy.
Brew McCoy. One of the main reasons he ended up going back to USC was because he wanted to play with his high school quarterback, JT Daniels. So we saw Brew McCoy not get his waiver when he left Texas, and then now the reason that he left Texas, so they say, is leaving the school that he ended up at too. So I mean, I think in hindsight, Brew McCoy is probably regretting his decision to leave Texas. But I think I think saying that JT Daniels is probably the best quarterback in the USC in the SEC is a bit hasty, because I want to see him beat out Jamie Newman first, and I think the coaching staff and the fans probably would rather see JT Daniels, and a lot of times that's kind of how it works out anyways. But I mean, coming off an injury, he couldn't even beat out. He couldn't take his job back from the freshman at USC.
Yeah.
Slovis or whatever.
Yeah, Slovis.
And I mean, and I think it says a lot about his, I don't know what he was showing at practice or whatever, that the coaching staff at USC was kind of letting him into their mindset enough, and for him to think they're going with this freshman over me, I need to leave. So I think we need to see him kind of show himself as the high school prospect, JT Daniels, before we say that he's going to be the best quarterback in the SEC. Because in my head, judging off of what we've seen at USC and him losing his job and them taking a freshman over him long term, I mean, I'm not putting him above Kellen Mond that much at all.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, wow.
But I mean, how are they not the same quarterback?
Okay. Paul?
I think personally, I think that Kellen Mond hit his ceiling after his sophomore year. And with JT Daniels, I think that his ceiling is a lot higher. Now, granted, they do play a very similar way, but I think that JT Daniels, once he has the confidence, and I think that's what it was, because it's kind of, kind of like you just said, he got hurt. He couldn't beat the freshman, so he took his ball and went home and transferred. We see that a lot. We saw that at A&M with Kyler Murray and Kyle Allen. But I think with JT Daniel, his ceiling being a lot higher, and I think if he can be willing to adapt to coaching, then that's where I just place him a little bit higher. But again, you do make a valid point. He's got to beat Jamie Newman. And if he does, which JT Daniel being the bigger name, he probably will. I just think Kellen Mond's ceiling is been there for 2 years. He hasn't progressed. He doesn't show any signs that he's able to read through his progressions. Kellen Mond's playing in an advanced NFL style offense. And I think that if Kirby Smart can get things, a little bit more in tune to the skill set of JT Daniels, they can be extremely successful. And that's just kind of where I'm at. I don't think Kellen Mond is a better prospect. I don't think he's the best quarterback with JT Daniels landing in Georgia. That's just me.
I think they're very similar in terms of on paper prospect when it comes to their stars and how highly touted they were. I think Kellen Mond's going to be a little bit bigger, but I think Kellen Mond is out of college with an offensive coach, whereas JT Daniels was out of college with an offensive coach and now is out of college with a defensive coach. So you can't be too sure of his development as a quarterback because we've seen that school chew up and spit out quarterbacks worse than they got him. I mean, they didn't want to play Justin Fields, who's now a Heisman contender at Ohio State. We saw Jake Fromm turn into Jake Fromm State Farm because he wasn't doing anything as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the past has shown that Georgia is not going to do anything for you to develop you. Whereas Jimbo Fisher, I mean, last year was he's still pretty new with Kellen Mond, so he could potentially develop him a little bit more as a quarterback, thus heightening his ceiling. Whereas maybe he's already reached it, but we don't even know what the ceiling of JT Daniels is, and all you can go based off of is it not looking very good because of his past at USC. And I think Kyle Allen is a great example of JT Daniels potentially busting because Kyle Allen also was a very, very highly rated and highly recruited prospect coming out of high school who transferred and then fell off the map because he couldn't live up to the hype. And I think that's going to be JT Daniels' biggest skeleton in his closet is trying to live up to the hype that he had coming out of high school.
Well, I mean, he still had that 2018 season was, I mean, it wasn't.
Right, but it wasn't a great season. It was almost a Kellen Mond-esque season.
Yeah, 15 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 60% passing.
Middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Disappointing. And that's kind of what Kellen Mond has been all year, or all his career.
Yeah, because then I guess, because then Daniels gets hurt beginning in the opener of 2019, and that's when Slovis took over. Then he passes for 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. So doubles what Daniels did. Yeah. So yeah, great point.
And I'm not backing Kellen Mond. I'm not a Kellen Mond fan really. I'm just saying that I don't think it's right to put someone in front of him because Kellen Mond is the most established guy in the SEC right now.
Is that true?
I listen. Yeah, I mean he is. He's a 4-year starter.
Yeah.
But I have a premonition, and I think Kellen Mond gets hurt and early in the season, and I think Haynes King comes in. They burn his red shirt, and they make some noise with Haynes King as a quarterback, and he takes over that Jimbo Fisher offense. I think Haynes King, if you let him start, will give you better productivity than Kellen Mond in this 2020 season for the Aggies. That's just
I think it's funny, Paul, because we could be talking about JT Daniels and Kellen Mond, and come time for the season, neither of those guys could be starting.
Yep.
All right, fair enough. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll have a season. I know there's a lot of schools that are, planning to, everybody's planning to get back to normal. I did see something where Iowa is planning to have all their games with no crowd restrictions right now. So, we'll see. I don't know. Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that headline?
I don't normally read too much into Iowa Hawkeyes football.
What?
Wow.
Dude. Iowa Hawkeyes, bro. Go Hawks. Shout out to Brandon Wark.
Well, did you have that Mexican Samoan guy get drafted this year?
Mexican Samoan guy?
Yeah, he looked Mexican, but then he had like a tribal tattoo, so I think he's Samoan.
All right. Fair enough. But yeah, Iowa Hawkeyes, shout out to
Did he get drafted by the Cowboys?
I don't know. I don't think so. NBA is going to try to start up again. We'll probably talk about that on Wednesday because I believe the vote is supposed to be Thursday on when they're supposed to, when they're going to try to restart. So we can do a little bit of preview of that. So yeah, they're planning a Thursday vote. The league's board of governors. They have a few different plans to try to do this, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday. All right, we got into other topics as assigned already. Anything else before we wrap this thing up, Zach?
I just put that guy's name and picture in the little group message.
Let me see. I can't see it.
AJ Epenesa?
Oh, AJ Epinesa. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
He got drafted in the second round by the Bills.
Okay. Oh yeah. Remember that. I saw
Everybody
that.
look out for him.
All right, what up? Paul Rodriguez.
Mexican Samoa.
Mexican Samoa. Paul Rodriguez.
You heard of American Samoa? He's from Mexican Samoa.
That would be pretty interesting if there was like a Mexican Samoa. That would be kind of like, instead of everybody being Mormon, they would be like all like super Catholic.
How do you say The Rock in Spanish?
I don't know.
Piedra.
How do you say The Rock in
Piedra.
Spanish? That would be
Piedra.
the Mexican.
Piedra.
If The Rock came from Mexican Samoa, that would be his name.
All right. We're going super off the rails. I know I started this episode super off the rails, and so we'll end it super off the rails. All right.
It'd be Jason Mimosa instead of Jason Momoa.
Jason,
good one.
what,
I like
Mimosa?
Yeah. Is Mimosa Spanish?
He said Momoa. Jason Momoa, Aquaman?
Yeah.
So it would be Jason Mimosa.
Word up.
Like the drink, the brunch drink.
Word up. Fair enough. All right. Let's do it FanStan/Flexi, or let's do it Flex ATX style. Sorry. I mean, bring up that old one. Zach, you shouting out yourself, and who else?
Shouting out Jason Mimosa, Mexican Samoa. You guys stay strong over there. That's it.
All right. Paul, shout outs.
Shout out to God and shout out to everybody bringing them positive vibes.
Yeah, I don't like those.
That's me.
Except me. I want to shout out to God and my parents down in Buda, Texas. Shout out to Snupe Daniel. Shout out to Kreitz Market, of course, our featured sponsor. And shout out to everybody that I may have triggered or offended by how I started this episode. If I did, apologies. But whatever. All right. Wednesday, episode 83. We're getting close to 100, guys. Paul, did you already do the math and see what date our 100 is going to be?
And I did that math like months ago. Yeah, it's August 1st.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So
One more episodes, and then we're back together in person.
How many?
4.
4? Okay. All right. So we're about 2 months, almost exactly 2 months away from episode 100. And we still got to figure out what we want to do for that, right?
We may be doing a live show.
Playing FIFA.
I'll play
We
some
can play
FIFA,
FIFA.
man. Go get that FIFA. Go get
They have
that
a
FIFA. Bring it
tournament.
over. Bring that FIFA over here so I can whoop you. I haven't played in 20 years. I'll probably still. I think I can do. I think I'm pretty good at it.
Mark
So.
my words. I'm gonna beat you. With Ronaldo.
What's the like? Do I get any points?
No.
No.
I mean, how do we even know Zach's good? I mean, how do we know? We don't even know.
Because he said he's good, and he's played before,
Oh.
and he uses the best guy on the.
Well, yeah. The last time Chris played FIFA was on a joystick. So.
It was, and I used Didier Drogba. So
yeah, you're gonna get beat in FIFA on live on Instagram on Raycon, whatever.
All right,
Instagram page.
All right, word up. All right, we appreciate everybody joining us today. Everybody that was on the watch party. We'll see you on Wednesday night, 8:00, episode 83. Talk some NBA, and we'll talk some other stuff. Maybe some MMA, some NASCAR. See what else. We can come up with. See if I can ruffle some feathers again on Wednesday night. All right, Paul, do your thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, if y'all enjoyed the podcast, please like, subscribe, and comment down below if you think Chris should have played that snippet. Everybody else hit the bell on YouTube. We'll let you know when we upload. We gone.
I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
Quarantine.